sports coverage of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Brought to you by the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida. Make the dream come true. Oldsmobile and your authorized Aurora retailers. Advil, advanced medicine for pain. No non-prescription pain reliever is proven to last longer than Advil. And True Value. No matter what you need, help is just around the corner.
The globe that is the signature of Epcot Center here at Walt Disney World, just off to the southeast of the racetrack here. There's the road that leads into Walt Disney World and past the resorts and, of course, the racetrack. Buzz Calkins is having a terrific day. Stewart is 14.9 seconds behind him. The early leader of the race and the pole sitter, Buddy Lazier, is with Jack.
Well, it was a tough day for Buddy Lazier. Buddy, what eventually did put you out, you didn't go back out after you changed the front corner because you found another problem.
Well, yeah, that's right. We had just a fantastic race car. Even yesterday, we had a certain problem, and we thought we found it yesterday. It was a lot like driving a car that was very sloppy steering. You couldn't control it. The steering just took off on its own. Through the race, we thought we found it last night. The crew worked hard all night. And even when we were running up front, the car would literally veer from one side of the racetrack to the other.
That's why Johnny Parsons thought maybe you two would make some contact.
We may have, because I'm going by people I'm trying to control. It's like having an old, sloppy, steering wheel, and that the car took off on its own. And it's a shame because even with that, the car was very fast. It was great through the fuel load. It was definitely the best race car I've ever had.
And here's what eventually put the Delta Faucet entry out. Kind of reminiscent when you say this 10-cent part. Well, it's only about 26 cents, guys.
There's nothing on these cars cost 26 cents.
Yeah, Jack. Maybe one tie wrap, Jack, but not.
Well, you can see
a broken one at that.
See the disappointment in poor Buddy's eyes. I'll tell you what, there is a very deserving race driver.
He's a good race driver.
And you know what? He did a great job, too, because he did it with a car that he didn't make a mistake. He didn't put it in the fence. He got smart. He came in and parked the car.
Well, we take a look now at Tony Stewart. Look at the interval on the different laps. He's closing down on Buzz Calkins. So we may have a battle for the lead here once again. A little while ago, the fear was that we'd have only one car on the lead lap, Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, remember, we're talking about a game of conservation for Tony Stewart. He is utilizing the three-team effort as well, the three-car effort, getting information from teammate Eddie Cheever and Scott Brayton. The team now feels that they can cut Stewart loose, give him a little more slack, be able to run a little bit more fuel, and that's why he's picked up the pace.
Well, right now, his teammates, Eddie Cheever sits in 11th, Scott Brayton sits in 15th. Going back up to the front of the field. There's Buzz Calkins, 24 years old from Denver. Gary Gerald's got his dad.
Well, he's watching anxiously, Brad. What are the emotions as you watch your son in his first IndyCar event and leading with a chance to win it?
Gary, I'm overwhelmed. I just can't believe we're here, number one, and to be leading this thing for any amount of time is beyond our wildest expectations.
What's your biggest concern or worry right now?
Well, just that the car will hold up. I think he can drive it, and I think he can hold on to it, but just hope we don't have any mechanical problems.
Is this like a storybook deal for you and your
Gary,
team?
you know it is. Thank you.
All right. You talk about emotion, Paul. There's tons of it down here.
Calkins in the Reynard. The engineer is Ken Anderson, one of the best engineers in the business, and Steve Rittenauer is chief mechanic.
Stewart, of course, has a tremendous amount of experience, and I watch that left front tire as he goes around the track. You can see how he gets down, almost touches the grass. This guy's got a lot of experience on an oval track, believe me.
Yeah, but he's doing a good job because he isn't running into the grass, Bobby. He's keeping it clean. He's staying above it. And actually, I worked with Ken Anderson for years at Penske, and he's got a tremendous amount of experience. He's a great shot guy. As we've seen, this track, he's got some up and down, some elevation changes, a little bit rough, and I'm sure he's got that car handling very nice over those bumps.
Indication is that the black flag will now be thrown to the number 2 car of Scott Brayton. And the reason is that they say he's just been running around the track too slow and has now become a hazard. 127 laps complete. You know, and Bobby Unser, I think there was some talk about how would these first races be handled from an official's point of view as we look at Scott sitting in the pit area. And it was interesting that 3 drivers were told, you're not going to start here this weekend. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, they're really just hunting and pecking now, trying to check and see if they can isolate what the problem may be in the engine compartment. That is not an easy job with an Indy car, as you know. You've got to take the fiberglass fairings off, got to take a look at the electronics. The motor at low idle doesn't sound too bad, but they say that they're not able to generate a lot of speed with the car. So now it's just going to simply be take it apart and try and find the gremlin.
You know, but all due respect for Scott Braden, to answer yours just a little bit, Paul, that his slow speed and the reason he kept on going is they didn't have really anything else to gain rather than that. If they could stay out on the racetrack, they could get points. This is a very few race series. They need to finish every race. It's more important than ever. So they tried to stay out.
Tomorrow on ABC Sports, we'll have college hoops coast to coast. Maryland takes on their ACC rival Duke. USC battles Cincinnati, or Texas meets Texas Tech. Don't miss all the regional action on the Payne-Weber College basketball tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports. They continue to work on the car, but Scott Braden says, well, it's time to climb out of this thing. You get that many parts off of it, looks like the day is pretty well done.
Yeah, that's got to be disappointing. I know these guys came down here with high expectations, wanted to do awful good.
And the Menard cars have tested down here so much. They've really put a big effort into being ready and trying to win this race. I guess as much as I ever see.
We watch Tony Calkins continue, or Buzz Calkins, to continue to maneuver out ahead of Tony Stewart. Calkins' best finishes in Indy Lights have been thirds, and they have been on 1-mile ovals in Phoenix and Milwaukee. So he's certainly got the experience to run there at the front and to figure out how to stay in front.
Bobby, what do you figure his emotions are right now? I mean, he's still got one more fuel stop to go, but he's got to be pretty pumped up, and he's got to be keeping an eye on what Tony Stewart's doing and what that gap is.
Oh, absolutely, because everybody that's running a Cosworth engine knows that the Menards or the Buick is going to have more horsepower. So they're all wondering, you know, if I run him out of fuel, if I run him low enough, the teams are checking on each other. All this stuff is just happening down there because of such a big disparity in the horsepower, which means fuel.
You know, right there, I think we just saw a good example of how bright he's driving. He's been very careful on getting past some of these cars. There's the 20 car. That's Tony Stewart, second place, rolling into the pits.
Doesn't look like he's coming in fast.
With 66 laps to go, Jack Arute.
Well, it should be a nominal stop for Tony Stewart. As we said to you before, they feel they have the sufficient fuel to go the distance now. They're going to give him the green light. Stewart showing a lot of poise during these pit stops, trying to be deliberate, making sure there aren't any mistakes. It costs him about a second to a second and a half. There again, in 18 seconds flat, he tries to get back up to speed. And there you hear him. He finally lights the tires up at the end of pit road.
Exactly what you were talking about, Bobby.
He just about killed the engine. He almost bought the barn right there. That would have cost him 1 or 2 laps if he'd have killed that engine, maybe 3.
That far away from the pits would have really hurt him, but it also hurt him just going out that slow. He probably lost a second or 2, and he looked awful slow coming down pit lane.
Roberto Guerrero moved into second place with that pit stop, and Gary Gerald's continuing to track the Calkins car.
Paul, they're already taking every precaution. They're talking him around, not on every lap, but they're telling him to be so very careful. They're trying to keep him cool. We expect his second and final stop inside of 10 laps now. They're conferring right now, and Kenny Anderson making a decision. We'll see him in shortly. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, the man that sat on the pole for last year's Indianapolis 500, hopes he can do it again this year. But at the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, it was an early departure.
Yeah, it was a very difficult day for us. You know, I hit the fence in the warm-up yesterday, and I think something, obviously, I must, you know, done something to the car, because right from the start it was just so loose I couldn't drive it. I was just in the guy's ways, and I didn't want to create a problem, which I almost did anyway, so I stopped, and I'm just happy to be back with Menards, and I think that we've got more exciting races to come.
Scott Brayton, watching the performance of your teammate Tony Stewart, is there any concerns at all anymore about fuel, or can he go the distance and really crank it up?
Well, I can't really say. Tony looks like he's running the best of between Eddie and I, and you know, I'm sure they're going to do everything they can do to get him in the winner's circle. I wish him the best of luck.